4 ship disasters. Deadlier than Titanic. Forgotten tragedies. Everyone knows the story of the Titanic. Its name has become a symbol of tragedy at sea. But what if I told you the Titanic was not the deadliest disaster in maritime history? That far darker nights and far greater losses have slipped almost unnoticed into the pages of time. From seas that turned to fire, to submarines that stalked in silence. From storms that shredded steel, to political decisions that changed the world. Tonight, we'll explore 4 shipwrecks that eclipsed the Titanic, each one claiming thousands of lives, each one a chilling testament to human error, war, and nature's fury. 1. MV Doña Paz, Philippines, 20th, 1987. In the Philippines, thousands of travelers boarded the ferry Doña Paz for a journey that should have been uneventful. Families carried children, workers headed home, students returned to school. The vessel's official passenger list recorded about 1,600 people. But by nightfall, it was clear the ferry was packed far beyond capacity. Corridors crowded with bodies, stairwells jammed, and corridors lined with sleeping mats. Estimates later placed the true number aboard at more than 4,000 souls. The sea that night was deceptively calm. Under a moonlit sky, the ferry pressed on, engines humming steadily. For passengers, the evening felt peaceful. Couples talked quietly on deck. Children dozed in their parents' arms, and the warm tropical air carried no hint of danger. But at 10:30 p.m., without warning, the nightmare arrived. Headed toward the ferry was the MT Vector, an oil tanker loaded with 8,800 barrels of petroleum products. A single navigational error, a series of miscommunications, and the fate of thousands was sealed. When the ships collided, the Vector's cargo ruptured, releasing gasoline and oil into the surrounding water. In seconds, the sea itself ignited. Witnesses later described the horizon exploding into flames. Walls of fire leaping skyward, a roar that drowned out the cries of panic. The Doña Paz was instantly trapped. Passengers tried to flee, but chaos consumed the decks. Life jackets were scarce. Many were locked away. Corridor lights flickered. Smoke choked those below decks. Parents clutched children, stumbling through tilted passageways in searing heat. Some jumped overboard, only to be swallowed by fire on the water's surface. For many, there was no escape. The ferry burned so fiercely that survivors later recalled their hair singeing from the heat, even clinging to wreckage miles away. Out of over 4,300 aboard, only 24 survived. Fires raged throughout the night, visible along the Philippine coast even from miles inland. The sinking of the Doña Paz killed 4,386 people, making it the deadliest peacetime maritime disaster in modern history. In comparison, the Titanic's toll seems small. Yet outside of Asia, few have even heard of this night when sea and fire combined, consuming an entire ship in under an hour. Second Wilhelm Gustloff, Baltic Sea, 1945. As horrific as the Doña Paz was, it was not the worst. That record belongs to a ship destroyed not by fire, but by torpedoes. In January 1945, with World War II reaching its climax, the German liner Wilhelm Gustloff became the setting for the deadliest loss of life at sea ever recorded. For civilians in East Prussia, the Soviet advance meant terror. Villages emptied as refugees, women, children, wounded soldiers fled westward. On the snow-choked ports of the Baltic, tens of thousands waited for escape vessels. The Wilhelm Gustloff, once a proud Nazi cruise liner, was pressed into service to carry refugees to safety in Germany. On January 30th, over 10,000 people forced themselves aboard. Although the liner's capacity was less than 2,000, it was chaos. Families huddled on decks, nurses guiding the wounded, soldiers with frostbitten hands. Staircases, passageways, even boiler rooms were crammed with people seeking warmth. At sea, the weather was bitterly cold. Waves crashing beneath a frozen grey sky. The Gustloff steamed west into darkness, escorted by a single torpedo boat. But stalking silently was Soviet submarine S-13, commanded by Captain Alexander Marinesko. At 9:04 p.m., Marinesko ordered 3 torpedoes fired. Each struck with devastating precision. The first disabled the ship's electrical system, extinguishing lights and plunging thousands into darkness. The second tore into the engine room, killing crew instantly. Passengers screamed as the ship listed sharply. Ice-cold seawater surged below decks. Panic erupted. Lifeboats were frozen in place. Davit lines stuck fast with ice. Those that were lowered became instantly overcrowded, capsizing as desperate figures clambered aboard. Many had no choice but to leap into the black Baltic, where hypothermia set in within minutes. Survivor accounts describe the horror. Mothers clinging to infants until the freezing water silenced them. Soldiers trying helplessly to organize crowds that surged blindly in the dark. The Gustloff slipped beneath the waves in less than an hour. Of more than 10,000 souls aboard, over 9,000 were lost in a single night. It eclipsed all other maritime disasters in scale. Yet history quickly overshadowed it, lost amid the chaos of global war. Today, the Gustloff remains a silent grave beneath the Baltic, the deadliest shipwreck in human history. 3. MS Estonia, Baltic Sea, 1994. Nearly half a century later, another tragedy would strike the Baltic. This time, not in wartime, but during a normal passenger ferry route, one that should have been completely safe. The story of the MS Estonia proves that even in the modern age, flaws in design can carry hundreds to the bottom of the sea. On the stormy night of September 28, 1994, the Estonia departed Tallinn, bound for Stockholm. On board were nearly 1,000 people, business travelers, tourists, families heading home. The seas were rough, winds howling across the decks, but nothing unusual for Baltic crossings. Around midnight, the storm intensified. Waves towered over the bow, slamming relentlessly into the massive visor door, shielding the car deck. Unknown to passengers, the bolts securing that visor were already weakened. Under repeated impacts, steel gave way. The bow door ripped open, and seawater rushed inside. Within minutes, thousands of gallons washed over the car deck, throwing the ship off balance. The Estonia listed steeply to starboard. Passengers tumbled from beds, running through dark corridors now angled like cliffs. Crew attempted distress calls. One weak mayday reached the radios, but it was too late. Chaos gripped the decks. Lifeboats could not be lowered, the tilt far too steep. Survivors later recalled the deck as a scene of terror. Families clawing for handholds as water surged, screams drowned by the storm. At 1:50 a.m., less than an hour after the visor failed, the Estonia disappeared beneath the Baltic. Only 137 survived. 852 lives ended in minutes. Families in Stockholm woke to news that loved ones had simply vanished at sea. The tragedy forced Europe to confront ferry safety. New regulations demanded stronger bow doors, better evacuation routes, stricter inspections. But for those who buried family members that week, regulations were small comfort. For them, the Estonia is not a policy lesson, but a wound that never closed. 4. RMS Lusitania, Irish Sea, 1915. Our last story takes us to the waters of the First World War, a disaster that not only sank a ship, but helped alter the course of history itself. In May 1915, the RMS Lusitania, one of the largest and most luxurious liners in the world, sailed from New York toward Liverpool with nearly 2,000 people aboard. Among them were wealthy travelers, families with young children, and crew who believed the dangers of war could never touch such a vessel. But Germany had declared unrestricted submarine warfare. Allied ships, even civilian ones, were targets. Beneath the sea,